This week we're headed to New Bordeaux to find out the latest about Mafia III. We venture even further afield for a chat with the Coalition about Gears of War 4, and Mike takes Forza Horizon 3 for a spin in our latest review. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week we'll kick things off with a big Aussie announcement. Australia's most inclusive convention is returning to Sydney in April 2017, and it needs your help to make things happen. Head to the GX Australia Kickstarter and snap up your early bird ticket, or pledge a bit more and get a bonus game or three, maybe a t-shirt or an invitation to some VIP action in Sydney. Building on a great first event, 2017 is shaping up to be even better for GX Australia. You can expect incredible guests, amazing panels, stacks of games and experiences, and a killer show floor. And it's all held in the more accessible, more affordable Sydney Showgrounds from April 29 to 30, 2017. Meanwhile, Pokemon Go is still making headlines with the launch of the new wrist-based Plus peripheral that finally allows you to earn candy and bonuses even when the app is not open on your smartphone. A new update for the game also records where you've caught each of your pocket monsters, so if you want to keep track of the best place to snag a Dratini, that should now be a little bit easier. But it's not all about Pokemon Go. The development team behind fan-created game Pokemon Uranium has officially called it a day, saying that while they are immensely flattered and overwhelmed by the response to the game, now is the time to move on to other projects. Uranium's hyperactive fanbase has promised to pick up the pieces and continue the project as a community build, but there will be no more official downloads, updates, online services, or support for the game. As one door closes, a window opens. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have stepped up to announce that, of course, the Pokemon franchise will indeed be appearing on the upcoming Nintendo NX console, due out in March 2017. Pokemon Company boss Tsunekatsu Ishihara spoke to the Wall Street Journal, saying that the NX will change the concept of what it means to be a home console device or a handheld device, and that his studio will be creating games for the new platform, even though we don't really know when we'll be able to play them. Another thing that we don't really know when we'll be able to play with is Project Scorpio. Microsoft has described their new hardware as the end of console generations, and we're not entirely sure what that means. We do, however, know that the development team is exploring virtual reality for the hardware, and that each of Microsoft's first-party games that will launch during the Scorpio timeframe will be able to natively render at 4K. You do still have some time to save up for that new TV, however. Project Scorpio, which is still just a code name, is set to launch in a bit over a year from now, in time for Christmas 2017. And speaking of virtual reality, we've finally found out how much it'll cost to get a pair of those Oculus Touch controllers, and it is way more than we expected. We're still waiting on details for local pricing, but in the UK at least, they'll set you back £190. That is around $245 US and $320 Australian, if we ignore the notorious Australia tax that will undoubtedly hike the price even higher. Hopefully, as we get a bit closer to release, the controllers will get a little bit more affordable. Moving on to quick news now, and Wargaming has announced its first esports tournament for World of Tanks Blitz. The World of Tanks Blitz Twister Cup will kick off a little later this year, with clans butting heads across the globe. If you want to join in, act fast, sign-ups are still open, so join a clan and put your name down right now. Blizzard has announced that it will soon be rebranding its decades-old online network, transitioning away from the Battle.net name and instead bringing everything under the single Blizzard umbrella. A few things have already changed, with Blizzard streaming and Blizzard Voice popping up in the wild, but more changes are on the way. This is a purely aesthetic change. The system will still work exactly like it always has, but it will help make things more streamlined and uniform, which is always nice. And speaking of streamlined, how do you get more efficient than simply recycling things? That seems to be the theory behind the team working on Metal Gear Survive, who are not only reusing the engine from Metal Gear Solid 5, but they've also lifted the entire Afghanistan map and inserted it straight into the new game with just a few details rearranged. Now, Metal Gear Survive is not going to be a full-priced game, but still more than a few Kojima fans are feeling a little cheated. Keeping them happy though is news from the man himself, who, remember, is not actually involved in Metal Gear Survive. Hideo Kojima has now stepped out on his own and is working on his own project, Death Stranding. We don't know much about this one other than the fact Norman Reedus is involved, but we do now have an idea that it will be in our hands in about 2 years. Kojima-san has confirmed that Death Stranding will be out before the Tokyo Olympic Games in 2020, or, more specifically, out before the year that Akira is set. With the Japanese animated classic taking place in 2019, simple maths suggests that Kojima's new one will hit sometime in 2018. Not long now. And speaking of 2018, that might be how long you'll have to wait for a new Assassin's Creed game, with Ubisoft announcing that the franchise may not be seeing a new game next year. However, what we will be seeing much earlier than that is the Assassin's Creed movie, which is due out at the end of this year. Director Justin Kurzel has revealed another tasty tidbit about the film. All of the historical scenes have been filmed in Spanish. Only fitting, as that's what they would have been speaking in the 15th century, but it's nice to see Hollywood agreeing to the use of subtitles in an otherwise English-speaking production. And as if the jump to the silver screen wasn't enough, Ubisoft is also moving onto the printed page. The first novel from Ubisoft Publishing will be Assassin's Creed Heresy, interweaving the story of a modern-day Templar with a 14th century narrative involving Joan of Arc. It's by Christie Golden, who you may recognise as having written a number of other games-related books, including several for World of Warcraft. For more information on any of these stories, or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
A modern city with traditional Southern values.
I underestimated how far he was going to go. What he was willing to do.
Visit the historic French Ward and enjoy local cuisine at one of our 5-star restaurants.
We are here at E3 hanging out in the wonderful 2K area, and we're talking with the lead writer of Mafia 3. You have done a phenomenal job by the looks of it. Tell us a little bit about what we can expect.
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment. So Mafia 3, really, one of our big foundational pillars of the game is to maintain what fans of the previous Mafia games loved. So that's a deep, rich narrative, it's cinematic, but it's also about taking what we call a gifted anti-hero and placing them within a specific time and place in American history. So in Mafia 2, that was Vito Scaletta, and now it's Lincoln Clay in 1968 in New Bordeaux, which is a fictionalized version of New Orleans.
That is something that's very, very key as soon as it obviously starts up, is that it's 1960s and it's down south. It gives you a lot to play with. How did you go about creating this living, breathing city?
So we really went across the game, and this isn't just narrative, but it's also art and also even the cars. We really strove to maintain a level of authenticity, so that everything feels like it's from, it's evocative of that era and time. So it just involved a lot of research. Narratively, it was everything from watching documentaries about, like, say, the civil rights movement, reading interviews with prominent people like Jim Brown, who played football for the Cleveland Browns, gave an interview in Playboy in 1968, and he talks about his experience as an African-American in the South and, interaction with the police. And on the art side, it was, we got old Sears catalogs from eBay, and you flip through them, and you see that kind of come up, like in the demo, you see Burke's amazing shirt, so it's just it really captures that time.
It's interesting you bring those things up, because one of the big things that came across in the presentation we saw was there's a very diverse cast of very diverse areas down south, and I'm sure they interact in special ways.
Yeah, so it's capturing, New Orleans, the real city, is a very diverse city. It always has been because of its kind of geographical location within the United States at the mouth of the Mississippi River. So we really want to capture that. That manifests itself within the city. You have things like the French Ward, which is obviously our version of the French Quarter. An area like Delray Hollow, which is predominantly African American. That's where Lincoln grew up. Lincoln's from. And then an area like Frisco Fields, which is basically the rich white area with mansions and stuff. But like you said, it also manifests in the characters. Like Cassandra is, she's the leader of the Haitian gang, so there's a very strong African American presence there. Vito gets sent down at the end of Mafia 2, so he's not there by choice. So it's just this cool, very diverse city that we really want to represent, both within the city itself, but also within the characters. And we really work to give each district its own individual flavor, not only in terms of like the pedestrians you see on the street, but also the crime rackets. So like the crime rackets in the French Ward, that's where people go to party. So it's drugs and prostitution. In a section of the city like downtown, that's where the city government is. So that's about extortion and bribery and things like that. So there is a difference, obviously in the civilian life, but we also really work to make sure that the rackets also represented that specific part of the city as well. Mafia 3 it has a true open world, which is the first for the franchise. And those rackets, they were created with a specific narrative intent. They're not just random. Like they all tie into Marcano's organization in some way. The mob is a hierarchy. So if you go after the guy at the bottom, he kicks up to the guy above him, who kicks up to the guy above him, and eventually you get the notice. The important people, quote unquote, take notice. So that's a big part of it. But you can approach those in any way. So in the demo, we show you going after this guy named Oscar. It's possible that in taking down that racket, a player may not even go after him. They could do there's other ways to bring down that racket, and you can do those in any order.
And when you take over these rackets in these districts and placing your underbosses in, do you get certain benefits with others than you wouldn't with others and stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's to me that's the interesting thing of the sit downs, is it's this potential conflict between character and rewards. So like a Mafia 2 player may say, I really like Vito, so I want to give everything to Vito. But as they go through the sit down, Burke, he can give you bulletproof tires for your car. He can give you the ability to call off the cops. So it's up to the player to kind of weigh that, say, well, on one level it's character versus reward, but it's also potentially even reward versus reward, because Vito has the hit squad. So maybe instead of the bulletproof tires, you want the hit squad. So there's those decisions the player has to make along the way.
What a sad, miserable fool I am for ever believing in you.
And one of the things that popped up as well was one of the gangs was a white supremacist group. How did you go about balancing the effects of this?
So we do show, we're talking about it too much because it's a big narrative spoiler and their importance in the game. But again, it goes back to just making sure that the game is authentic. So if it's something that happened in the 1960s, 1968 in real world New Orleans or the United States, is something that we really strove to capture. And the great thing about Lincoln as a character is that and the city as well, is that it provides a nice window for the player to take have a glimpse into that world and kind of walk through it.
It's time for them to pay. This city belongs to me.
Microsoft's Turn 10 Studios, the development house behind the Forza Motorsport series of driving simulators, has done nothing but turning quality work ever since they released Forza Motorsport all the way back in 2005 on the original Xbox. Over the last 11 years, they have managed to evolve over 3 generations of console quickly enough to produce more games than Sony's Polivity Digital Studio, the team behind the powerhouse Gran Turismo series, and many would argue that not only have they done so faster than the Japanese juggernaut, they've also done it better. Forza Horizon 3 from Playground Games in association with Turn 10 is another incredibly strong piece of evidence in favour of that argument. The Horizon side series of Forza titles is a far cry from the usual, more professional, strictly track-based racing simulators that you'll find in the main Forza series or similar titles such as Project Cars or Gran Turismo. They are a more accessible, easy to pick up, energetic and fun series of races, breathtakingly fast, ultra-smooth off-road then on-road then off-road again collections of balls-to-the-wall speedy action. The fictional music and racing festival that sits at the centre of the Horizon universe has expanded across the Pacific onto our fair shores of Australia without an ounce of jet lag. bringing with it a huge open world full of driving challenges to test your skills on. This game is a belter. The first thing you'll notice when you get onto the open road is how good it looks. The game is truly stunning, from the skyscrapers and tight city streets of Surfers Paradise and the sandy beaches of Byron Bay, all the way to the Yarra Valley River and the harsh desert of the Australian outback. This is one of the most visually striking games of consoles of all time. From the glare of the sun as it reflects off a damp road during a summer shower, to the bashing of the raindrops off your viewpoint during a downpour, all the way to the sand your tires kick up as you peel off the starting grid in the desert. Playground Games and Turn 10 have turned in a fantastic looking game that held a rock solid 30 frames per second throughout my entire playthrough, even when I was travelling at over 300 kilometers an hour. The game has a very loose structure which pretty much leaves you to your own devices to go wherever you want and accept races and other speed challenges in whatever order you wish. As you complete these, you are awarded with fans, indicating the festival is attracting more people, and when you reach certain fan milestones, you get to either upgrade an existing festival location, unlocking more challenges and racing in that area, or opening a new location altogether on a different part of the map. Sometimes you'll unlock a showcase event, a great feature of the Horizon series of games. They are a series of challenges that pit you in a pre-selected car in an odd stacked against you race against various methods of transportation, such as trains, speedboats, and a bloody Harrier jump jet. The structure isn't the only thing that's loose. The representation of Australia's geography on the map is a little off course. I may not originally be from Australia, I've only been here 6 years, but I'm pretty sure that the 12 Apostles aren't in Byron Bay. It makes sense that liberties had to be taken to fit the landmarks that they wanted, but anyone coming to this expecting to get a road-by-road recreation of the land down under are going to be sorely disappointed. If I can say anything about the Forza games, is that they look great, which we've already covered, but they also feel great. The 350 plus cars in the game all feel like your brain thinks they should. Heavy off-road trucks and utes have the appropriate weight behind them, and the lighter, meaner, faster hypercars are super quick to go and also super quick to turn. The weather and terrain all affect the way you drive too. You should brake into turns earlier if it's raining, and the lack of traction in the outback sands means you throw your vehicle's ass around the corner easier. Taking all of these differences of drive into account is important if you want to win more fans with higher podium finishes, especially on higher difficulties. Every so often you'll be alerted to a barn find rumour by one of your festival crew. The rumour is that there are classic cars scattered around the map hidden literally in barns that you have to find in order to add them to your collection. Your map will show a very approximate location. This leads to more than one occasion where I spent more than 10 minutes driving in gradually shrinking circles trying to find a bloody building that looks remarkably like several other buildings within the radius, waiting for the cutscene to trigger. These have a tendency to be frustrating as I found the classics often weren't worth the time. This could mostly be attributed to my acknowledged ignorance of car culture, so your mileage may vary depending on your vehicular passion. Australians beware, however. If you're looking for a slice of Australia on a disc or download, you best keep looking. All of the voices you will hear throughout your time in Horizon Australia, barring one, will not be Australian. Your head of PR, Irish. Your GPS voice, British. All of the radio hosts that I heard were either American or British. Granted, I didn't listen to all of the stations intently. Dance music just isn't my thing. Your guy in the garage, as he labels himself, is the only Australian accent I heard, which, for a game set in Australia, is a bit lame. It would have been nice for a country that gets such little screen time in games to have had a little bit more representation. Speaking of the radio, there are a bunch of stations to choose from, so you should be able to find something to your taste. Personally, there wasn't enough classic rock on there, so luckily there is integrated groove music station. It's basically Microsoft's version of Spotify or Apple Music. And this station allows you to stream and play any playlist that you might have on that service over your car stereo. It works surprisingly well, and the little details like transferring the sound from your stereo to the loudspeakers of a festival location as you pass it is a nice touch. Still, even with a couple of nitpicks, I'm happy to recommend Forza Horizon 3. It's a well-polished, meticulously crafted gem of an open-world racing game with a great dollar-to-hour ratio if you want to see everything the festival has to offer. Want to try it for yourself? There's a free demo on the Xbox One Marketplace right now that gives a pretty good taste of what you can expect. For those that are already sold, search for and join the Player Attack Driving Club once you're in. We'll cruise until the sun goes down and beyond. Watch out for those drop bears though.
25 years after our world was ripped apart from the inside, we had peace. But then, those we loved were taken.
Mom!
And everything changed.
Gears of War 4, it's massive, it's huge, it's here at E3, we're looking at co-op, we're looking at campaign, I'm here with Matt, we're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff, but we'll start at the beginning. How did we get here to the start of Gears 4?
Sure, so our game is set 25 years after the end of Gears 3. We wanted to sort of follow some new characters with a new storyline, but have some ties to the past. We were really excited to reveal Marcus on stage during our briefing. It's great to be able to talk about him a little bit and reveal that he's inside the game. So for us it was about setting a new story, and that just felt like the right time to do it.
And so who is in this new story? We have some new faces up here behind us, and who are they, and when do we get to meet them?
Yeah, so the new squad sort of revolves around 3 characters. JD Phoenix is sort of the leader of the squad, you know, the son of Marcus, and you get to discover a little bit about his role in the story, his relationship with his dad, and then his good friends Kate and Del. And actually, inside the campaign, the second player is able to choose between Kate and Del, whoever they want to play.
Hey, wind's picking up.
No need to worry just yet. And watch it. That thing could be anywhere.
You were saying to me a moment ago that people have been focusing on the fact that there's this strong female character inside Gears of War. There's been strong female characters in Gears of War before.
For sure, yeah. Like all the Gears games had it, especially Gears 3 and Judgment had really strong female characters. The literature, like the fiction around Gears is filled with them, so it wasn't really a big deal for us. Like that's just something that naturally occurred as we were developing the story.
And Kate's storyline in this one is a pretty crucial thread throughout the whole story.
Yeah, that's right. We gave a little taste of it on stage, but some of the story revolves around her mother and sort of her role in Sarah and what's going on.
Okay, you're a big fella. Easy now. Oh, that's not good.
So we've covered the human characters in Gears. What about the monster characters in Gears of War 4? Who's going to be there?
Yeah, so Gears is obviously all about monsters, right? Like that's sort of what sets it apart. We were really stoked to show off a few of the new monsters on stage. So inside our co-op campaign demo we're doing here, people are getting a better look at the Juvies, which are the little fast-moving guys, as well as the drones, which kind of have that traditional Gears feel to them. We're also showing some combat with the Pouncers that we gave a taste of at E3 last year. And then there's one reveal on stage with the Carrier who came out at the very end, and that's just a taste of the enemies that we brought to Gears 4.
The next obvious question, what are we going to use to fight them off?
Yeah. So we showed the drop shot in our MP beta, and again we showed it on stage, as well as the buzzkill. We have these cool new weapons that are sort of have this tool fiction around them. You know, there's been peace on Sarah for 25 years, so it felt like the right thing to do. But they're really dynamic. The drop shot is a mining tool that goes over cover and you can slam down on people, and the buzzkill is basically like a giant concrete saw thing that launches ricochet and saw blades all over the world. Is pure chaos.
It's such a calm, gentle franchise, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly our niche, calm and gentle.
You kept our armor. If we don't stop these things, everyone within 1,000 miles dies.
Gears of War 4 is also doing something slightly different with some Play Anywhere stuff and some Xbox One, Windows 10 stuff. Can you explain what's going on there?
Yeah, we're thrilled to be part of the Xbox Play Anywhere initiative. So basically what that means is if you buy Gears of War digitally on either Xbox One or Windows 10, you get both copies, and all of your save games, your achievements, they go seamlessly between the two. So you can start on one platform, jump to the other one, and just continue your game.
There's some exciting stuff coming out. You must be so thrilled to finally be able to reveal all of, well, some of these little bits. There's still more coming, right?
Oh yeah, there's lots more coming, but I mean, it's a huge, it's awesome for us to come to E3 and show off what we've been working on and show some of the campaign that we haven't really talked too much about. It's been a blast.
that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, it's time to put the headset on once more and check out some virtual reality. PlayStation VR launches in October, so we took a look at a couple of platform exclusives, Batman Arkham VR from Rocksteady Studios and Sony's brand new FPS, Farpoint. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, and if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Also, if you want to support Player Attack, you can find us on Patreon and help us bring you the latest in gaming news, plus all these wonderful interviews and reviews from the world of video games. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.